The Cleveland Cavaliers lose game 2 to the Indiana Pacers in the final moments. Everybody has been doom, gloom, sad, upset, whatever adjective you want to use for the feelings of downtown Cleveland right now. And not to even just to throw a little bit more dirt in the wound. The NBA did their 2-minute report, the last 2 minutes of the game, and said that Tyrese Halliburton's offensive rebound should have been called back because of what's it called?
Lane violation.
Lane violations by 2 different players.
You can see that live. I don't know why we needed the 2-minute review a day later. Thanks for nothing.
Can we get rid of that stupid thing? That is the worst thing they've implemented.
I agree. I 100% agree. But the Guardians, the Cavs are down 0-2 going to Indiana, a hostile environment, a solid playoff environment with injuries, with Donovan Mitchell looking like he needs to sit in an ice bath for the next 3 days after the performance he put on the court just to lose again. How are we feeling? What are we thinking? What are your keys to move forward? John, you started last time. Erik started first. Erik, I'm going to let you go.
Let me start by saying I'm still positive here. We talked a little bit in our group chat of what we thought. Listen, they should have won that game without 3 key pieces. It was a risk what Coach Atkinson did. But had they won and he was able to rest those 3 guys, I think we would have called it a smart move, and we should have won that game. My question and the keys to moving forward are what's going on with Ty Jerome? That's crazy to me. I feel for Mitch. He's putting the team on his back, putting his body on the line, and not much is happening. And this becomes a must-play game for Mobley and Garland. Garland it's a pain issue. He has a sprained toe, and it's a pain issue. Are you kidding me? He sat for 2 weeks. I mean, can he not get an injection and play through the pain? The calf strain of Donovan worries me a little bit, and it makes this year almost feel like when Kyrie got hurt in 2015. I know that was the finals, but it just has similar vibes to me. Physicality has been the question for this team all year long, and how they would take those knocks from hard-played minutes in the playoffs, that was the question. And so far, the answer is not very promising, because the fact is we outplayed them. We were more aggressive the entire game, but then in the final 57 seconds, we can't even get the ball across half court. You guys mentioned the rebounding. I don't know why TT's not in there for size. It seems to make sense to me if you need a rebound. That said, both Strus and Mitch deserved the proverbial game ball for their performances. They were both lights out, hitting everything, but they need to do some soul searching. Game 1 was lost because they looked disinterested and they weren't there. Game 2 was lost because they didn't execute down the stretch. I mean, they were up by 28 points. They played their game plan and played aggressive the entire time. And then when it mattered, they let the game slip away. And it's a heart-wrenching ending. But I think this is a team that thought they would stroll through to the at least Eastern Conference Finals, maybe even the finals. And they've got punched in the mouth. And, as a lot of people, the saying goes, it's what will you do now once you are punched in the mouth? We need to take game 3. It's as simple as that. If we don't take game 3, it's over.
Yeah, I agree with a lot you said. There's a lot to unpack there. First things first, I agree with you on the proverbial game ball for Mitch. I would pull Strus's back because even though he had an excellent 41 minutes, he did have some inbounding, jumping around,
that pass,
shenanigans at the end of the game. That was a big part of costing it for us. But I guess Mitchell missed a few free throws that you could say the same thing about. It was a gut punch. I told you guys in the text, I'm standing by it. I've thought over my last 8 years of Cleveland fandom, this is the biggest punch to the gut, watching them blow a 7-point lead with about 50 seconds left that I've had since the rain delay in Game 7 of the World Series against the Cubs and them coming back and winning. Not quite the same stakes, but we had championship hopes and expectations. They're not dashed. There's still a path. We got to get healthy. But you talk about being in a real bad spot going on the road against a team you were supposed to beat pretty handily. They made their work a lot harder for themselves. couple key things stood out for me. One was we still don't use the bigs. I don't understand, even with Mobley out, why with a 20-point lead in the fourth quarter, the whole offense didn't just spread out around the 3-point line, lob it into Jared Allen, and let him go to work. A third of the time he's going to make the shot. Another third of the time he's going to get fouled, and you will bleed the clock, and the Pacers won't even have enough time to score 20 points. We're still out there heaving three-pointers like we're down 8 when we were up 20 with double digits left in the shot clock. I thought that was silly. I know that's how we got here, but we don't have all the players in that we used to get here. You got to be smarter in that position. 2, at the end of the game, how many things could go wrong in a small span of time? I mean, the odds were something like 99.89%. Like if you had 1,000 chances to finish that game up 7, I believe, with the ball with 50 seconds left, 1,000, you'd win 998 of them. So everything had to add up. The missed free throw and the rebound. And then Halliburton, I thought he was going to drive down the lane. Somebody in my office today reminded me he can't drive with his left. So Ty Jerome, who got busted again, probably should have known he was pulling back, but that step back, that ball was in the air for like half an hour. But I do think that the Cavs played well as a team and had a really bad 30 seconds at the end, with one key exception. And I hope every single person who ever floated the idea or flirted with the thought of getting rid of Garland and just rolling with Ty Jerome has watched every minute of the last 2 games. Now, I don't want to put it all on this guy. I think he's a talented kid. He's only his second year in the league, I think, his first one actually playing.
But he's been in the league forever. He's like 28. This is just his second. No, it's
breakout.
This is his breakout year. He was playing good for us last year. He's been in the league he's like 28. Yeah.
Okay. So I stand corrected. Even more reason why you should expect more out of the guy. But when your shot's not falling and you're just driving down the lane, getting fouled and looking for calls, use the rest of the team. He was 1 for 14. If I look at one thing that stands out from the entire game, yeah, Mitch missed a few free throws. He had 49. Yeah, Strus had some knuckleheaded inbound stuff. He went off in that game and did everything we needed him to do and played pretty good defense. 1 of 14 from your point guard kills me. And not using Jared Allen late to bleed clock and to get to the free throw line killed me. I think they can bounce back if we're healthy, but I'm kind of glad we have 3 days off because it takes a minute to rinse this one out of the system. That was ugly.
Can I go?
Certainly.
Are you sure? Are we
Are
positive?
you sure? Erik can start over again.
No, I know. I have never, in my entire life of being a sports fan, working in sports, whatever else you want to say.
Like 15 years. Go on.
Screw off. Seeing an arena get deflated to the point that Rocket Arena was last night, about this time last night, 24 hours ago. I'm talking about it was dead quiet. It was funeral level quiet in that arena. Normally, back where I'm at for work in terms of my CAVS shifts, I'm by where they play the radio broadcast. They turn the radio broadcast off. I mean, it was quiet. I had coworkers crying. I have never seen it outside of like the finals, obviously, in terms of just a regular playoff game. Ty Jerome was abysmal. I don't have to rehash that. You guys already hit it. He was 0 for 7 going into the second half and finally hit one shot, finished with what, like 4 points? Donovan Mitchell did his best interpretation of LeBron James, despite being a couple inches and a few pounds shorter and smaller than him. And we still chalked it up. That inbound pass, that to me was not on Max Strus. Max Strus threw a solid ball. Jerome stood there like a brick and let it get picked off. I'm not trying to bully Ty Jerome because I am a huge Ty Jerome supporter. I think he has been fantastic all year, as most Cav fans have. I think he's been fantastic through round 1. I think he's had a shaky 2 games, and it's time to pick it up. Now, let's go to the injuries. I think, Atkinson, as you guys have already said, really tried to bet on his team and think, okay, we'll take one at home. These guys will get their rest, and then we'll be able to pull it out from there. Well, now you didn't. And my biggest question after game one, Erik, when you and I sat here on this show on Monday night, was Cleveland, Cavs locker room. How will you respond? And my question remains, how will you respond? Because all season you have done everything and then some to beat the worst soft allegations. And, oh, this team are a bunch of frauds. Well, you're not helping yourself right now. You're not doing yourself a favor. You want to know how you do yourself a favor? You do what Tim Lyons said earlier in the chat, and you win in 6.
I do want to jump in real quick, because while I think you're right, I will say for 3 quarters, damn near 4 quarters of that game, we did play that way. We were the aggressor. I mean, Rick Carlisle talked about we were the team playing harder. That's the difference when we were up 20. So they came out and they responded exactly how I wanted them to respond. But they let the team stick around, and you can't do that in the playoffs. You got to put it away, and that's what they didn't do last night.
So let me ask you this.
The team stick around,
real quick, John. Let me ask you this. What does it even matter? They didn't win the game. That's great. You can play the best 3 quarters of your life. If you lost, you didn't respond.
It matters because they weren't as lackadaisical. We still had 3 guys out, and that matters. Listen, I don't want to put it all the blame on those 3 guys sitting, but not having Mobley, that's a big deal. You know that. So what we saw out of injury hampered team, including Donovan, who's limping his way to the locker room, we saw a fight. It didn't go down the way we wanted, and they hit an extraordinary shot to end the game. And yeah, we didn't execute in that stretch in those 57 seconds, but we did see fight, and that's what I wanted to see. And I think that bodes well going into Indiana, because their heads should be a little higher. They saw it. It was in their hands, and it was like sand, dripping through. I don't know if sand drips, but you get what I'm saying. They were right there. And they know that they can win. They also knew they're a 62-win team. They know what it takes to win. So I think the resolve is there. I think we're going to see a bounce back and a huge win. That does matter, in my opinion.
I'm curious if we are going to see Tristan Thompson step out in this type of enforcer role, because I remember back in the years and the days of the LeBron championship window, we had guys like that would come in. J.R. Smith with the double technical. Jay Crowder is one that comes to mind. Kendrick Perkins was a enforcer, and that was about all he did. He'd come off, he'd play 5 minutes, he'd throw a punch and go back to the bench or the locker room, depending how the refs are feeling. I wonder if Tristan Thompson or maybe even a Javonte Green is going to step into that role. John, you were going to add something in there for a second. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, Erik made a point a couple of questions ago now that the Cavs were – maybe he didn't mean it. Maybe it's semantics. Tell me. But part of what you said that I disagree with that makes it more frustrating for me is you said they did a good job. They played hard. They showed how they were supposed to, but they let the Pacers stick around. They were up 20. I don't feel like they did let the Pacers stick around. I feel like they whooped their asses for 45 minutes and then completely blew it, which in my mind is different. If you got, hey, we were up 15, but you let them nip back to 6. And hey, we got up 12 and you let them nip it back to 2. That's letting a team stick around. I think the Cavs put it to them and they were up 15-20 for 2 quarters. And the reason I brought it up, not to disagree with something that doesn't need to be disagreed with, it's to say that's what killed me worse. If we were only up 3 points the entire game and kept letting them nip, I'd be like, hey, you know what? We lost another close game. We blew a 20-point lead in 8 minutes.
Yeah, but it didn't happen in the fourth. I mean, we were up 20, and then it was the end of the second and going into the third that they went on a run. So the beginning of the third, they went on an 8-0 run, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
the Pacers
they were outscored 21-36 in the fourth quarter, Erik.
Exactly.
Yeah, but what was the third quarter?
34-37.
Yeah, it was the fourth. And 21, the difference between 21 and 36, I mean, when you have a 20-point lead, you can do the math. That's most of it right there. They blew that whole lead in the fourth quarter. They were throttling the Pacers. Everything we wanted to see, we saw. And in the fourth quarter, about a couple minutes in, it's like watching a snowman melt, like everything just before your eyes. Like, what happened? Like, it just was 90 degrees.
Dylan makes a good point here, though, that fatigue caught up to them, because even Atkinson was saying that he wished he would have played the bench more because those guys were gassed.
So why not play him more?
know
I mean, they
why.
had a bunch of bench
No,
guys giving them great minutes.
It's a good question.
Guys, we have a lot of viewer questions coming in, so I want to answer a couple of them. We'll go YouTube text back and forth. We have a text from Dean that said, I wanted to ask you guys what your opinion is on how the Cavs are going to play in Indiana. Do you think that they are going to take both of these games? This is me pivoting. The question ended at Indiana. Do you think they're going to take both of these games? Do you think they're going to play hard? Do you think that they're going to bench some players? What do you guys think?
I think it depends entirely on the injury situation, especially with Donovan. Do I think that the intention is to play hard and take both games? Yes, absolutely. But if we still don't see Garland, if we don't see Mobley, if Mitchell's hobbling along, I think that this series is over.
I want to give a shout out real quick too. We got the same question from Jack, who said, do you think the Cavs get rinsed in enemy territory against the Pacers? I'll open that back up to you now, John, to see what you think.
No, I can't see this team getting swept. It's going to come back. The question is, are we going to come back tied? Or are we going to come back on life support? And I agree with Erik. I think it starts and ends, and everything in the middle has to do with who's healthy and how healthy they are. Not as worried about Spider because he's a gamer. He played hurt. He's been playing hurt. He's getting hammered in the lane and keeps coming back. If Garland can't go and Mobley can't go, I have huge, huge, huge concerns. And if they're both out, we might be screwed.
Who's more important to you guys, do you think?
Mobley, the defensive player of the year. It's Mobley for sure, in my opinion, because he's the defensive player of the year, and we lack big depth. Ty Jerome could turn this thing around, and everybody will be singing his praises if he has a 30-point game, and Garland sits another one.
You know what? It's a bad time to go soul searching, though.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's a lot of ifs too. Like, again, I agree with you. Mobley's DPOY, and that he's huge for his size and what he does in his game. But on the other side, if you replace Ty Jerome with Darius Garland for both of the last two games, we win both of the last two games. I know that's not quite how it works, but 1 for 14 and missing inbounds passes and Halliburton dotting your eye for a 3 as time almost expires. Like, again, not to rag on the guy. He's been great for us this year, but like, he's a liability.
Yeah. And Noah and I touched on it a little after the game 1 loss. One of my issues with that loss is how our offense was looking stagnant. We looked better for a lot of the stretches in game 2, but it's extremely frustrating for us to go down the floor and have 4 guys just standing around the arc. No motions, no screens. You have 2 bigs in. They're not utilizing the paint like we can. That's game 1. What are we doing there? Because you know what else spreads the floor pretty well? When you got to worry about Mobley inside, you get it to him. He can dish it out. You're running off-ball screens. I saw no movement in game 1 for a team that led the NBA in offense. I'm not sure what the hell I was looking at.
We have another comment in, guys, a little bit further back. What are your guys' thoughts on the financial situation with the Cavs heading into the offseason? I'll jump in real quick, just because this is a simple answer to me. With how the luxury tax works and everything like that, immediate concern, 0. Future concern, a lot, depending on if they get a championship out of this window or not. If they do, then we can go back to cap hell for a couple years and be a bad basketball team. I don't really care. But we have plenty of buffer room, in my opinion, with the luxury tax as of right now. What about you guys?
I refuse to accept the principle that the Cavs are headed into the offseason. I still am holding out hope that we're playing basketball until June. I don't, but I agree with Noah. We got an owner who will spend too. That's always nice. Even if you're in the double luxury and there's some nasty cap hits and luxury taxes, I think he'll get it done.
This is a question that I agree with John. I think we reserve this down the line a little more. I think the question is more what pieces will we add, not worrying about the cap, because I think if we fall to the Pacers or we fall in the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm not so positive that they won't go out and make a blockbuster trade or do something bigger to try and help this team. I know we talk about the core four all the time, but the front office is not afraid to make moves either.
We got one other. Well, we got a couple more. We'll go to Tim Lyons, even though I think we all have the same answer for this. If you lose against the Pacers, will the Cavs fire this coach too for making the playoffs and losing? I know he's doing this in jest. No, 100% Kenny Atkinson is the coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers next year. Another question. Why no Porter when Ty was god awful? I think this is a fair take from Barry, honestly. Porter played some solid, hard-hitting minutes in this game when he had that transition dunk and he was playing defense all over the place in his short stature. Give the kid some more minutes, especially if Darius Garland is out in this game 3. What do you guys think?
Hard agree. I thought he opened strong. I like seeing Porter out there. Listen, like you said, though, Noah, we know what Ty Jerome can give us. We just haven't been getting it. And I don't know why he gets open looks and he's just missing. It boggles the mind because these are things that you expect. He puts the ball up and I go, oh, money. And it's not hitting. I don't know if he's in his own head. So I think, when shooters are in a slump, you keep letting them shoot. And I think what Coach Atkinson's trying to do, you send him to the bench, it's going to be worse. He's got to work through some of this. Now, at a certain point, though, we also need to win. So that's the question that Coach is facing. And I think what he's doing is trying to let his shooter play through it and get back on track.
I do think,
100%.
though, that to your point with the question, Barry, why no Porter, I would expand it to everyone. If I was going to give one piece of huge credit as to why we might have the coach of the year, it's that throughout the season, he's never hesitated to let his bench guys play. In certain spots, when you needed a guy who was big, you might throw Tristan out there. When you needed another guard, you might throw Porter out there. And then in some of the blowouts, which became pretty plentiful at some points of the season, these guys were getting 5, 8, 10 minutes in the fourth quarter. Then you go back to last series and say, okay, well, that's regular season, no playoff. We had our bench playing the entire fourth quarter of 2 games in the playoffs against the Heat and still getting buckets. I would expand it to say, why no Porter? Great question. Why no anybody else? This is why you gave them those minutes and played them all that time. It's to see what they could do and be ready for the moment. And then you just run the starters ragged and you give these guys 2 minutes here, 3 minutes there. Everything goes exactly the same way, but you have Tristan Thompson's fresh legs rebounding on a free throw at the end of the game. We might still grab it and win. Like there's so many spots where you could have put in a bench guy because they prepared them for this moment. I just don't know why they didn't use more of them all the way across the board, not just Porter.
By the way, real quick, because neither of you have mentioned him, shout out Dean Wade with 10 boards last night. That's something we struggled with, and
he was still an offensive liability, which is not.
I get it,
chaos,
but he was hitting the boards, and that's a liability for us. It's been one for a long time.
Dylan asked, do you think Okoro is still injured? That fall was awkward looking in the third. And then he said, seen him favoring it till the end of the game. Probably. I think all of these guys are dinged up. They played 81 without the last game they sat out. 81 regular season games plus the preseason. Now we're starting to get into a rough and rowdy team. 100% he's a little bit injured. But I think all of these guys are at the point where they're going to play. Period.
Dylan, to answer your question earlier on the cap, Okoro is a guy you can say goodbye to right now. I do not envision him being with this team much longer.
Where did that come from?
Eric's like, he's out.
I'm just letting you know.
They just re-signed him though too. He's got a good team friendly deal.
You've heard of a sign and trade, right?
Well, this isn't the
out of here.
This isn't the definition of a sign and trade.
Sign and trade 2 years removed.
Gentlemen, to wrap up the segment, I want to know confidence level. Give it a percentage, 0 to 100, obviously, in the Cleveland Cavaliers having the ability to move on past round 2 as things stand right now, Wednesday at 9:50 p.m., May 7th.
30%. That's an average of 0% if all these guys are still hurt, and 60% if all these guys are healthy. Knowing what I know now, I can't play God and I don't have a crystal ball. So hoping a few of them here or there, I say 30%.
Erik?
I'm going to go a bit higher. I think knowing what the injuries are, I do think a few guys will play. I'm going to go 52%.
To advance. That's more than half.
That is funny as hell to me, because I was going to say 51% because I am confident still in the team, because they were one of, if not the best teams in the regular season for the NBA. But I mean, I was the guy that the clips out there of me saying Tyrese Halliburton, Baby Birkin, whatever, Cavs in 4. Like, I thought they were going to get past this round pretty quick. So my confidence was probably at 100, 5 days ago. So for it to diminish 49% over 2 games is pretty vast in my opinion.
Here's the thing, though. This team is weird. I mean, there's a scenario where, and I don't think this is likely, but where we go down 3-0 and then we rip off 4 straight. Like, you just don't know with this team, because even when we were getting down, or even when we were down a decent amount in game 1, I see this team as closer to those Golden State teams that they can turn it on in an instant and be in any game. So I think the same holds true throughout the rest of the series. I think we're in it.
I do have one quick thing. When you transitioned into this segment, just because these are our final words, when you transitioned in, you saw Lillian hit us in the chat. And I think you might have thought that she was just saying, yeah, but what about Cavs basketball? You're like, oh, yeah, Lillian, we're going to get into that. She said the Knicks beat Boston by 1.
Yeah, they're down 0-2 right now, too.
91-90. I wasn't sure if you guys caught that or just thought she was making an NBA reference, but I was like, oh my God. So
no, John, I'm so glad you said that, because something we talked about in our chat today that I wanted to bring up on the show. I said that if 2016 and LeBron taught us anything, it's that sorry for the expletive here, it's really fucking hard to win a championship. There's a lot of parity. It's not easy. There's a reason we haven't even been close since. We're seeing that right now. We're seeing the top seeds go down. Every single one of them lost game 1. And obviously Boston lost again. Boston's a good team. They can hurt you. And nobody expected the Knicks to do much the way they were playing at the end of the season. Vice versa for us. Pacers are a good team. We give credit where it's due, but it is not easy when you get to this point of the season. And just about I know half the freaking league makes the playoffs, but when you're in this round, every team is good and you just don't know what's going to happen.
For sure. I am looking forward to Friday and Sunday and seeing what happens next, seeing what players are going to play for this team or not play for this team, and what the next steps are for the Cleveland Cavaliers. We are all sad. We are all down right now, but maybe there is a silver lining and we still continue this run and we can still feel good. Basketball in the land is not over yet. 0-2 hurts. How will you respond is my question.